What do you do when life throws unimaginable challenges your way? For Keri Henson, the answer has been to embrace resilience with unwavering strength and grace. A mother of six, Keri's journey through motherhood has been anything but ordinary. From the heartbreaking diagnosis of childhood cancer for her 9-month-old son to losing her home to Hurricane Harvey and navigating her husband's battle with anorexia, Keri has faced adversity head on. Most recently, she has experienced the trauma of her 7-year-old son being struck by a one-ton truck. Yet, through it all, Keri has emerged not just a survivor, but a beacon of hope, illustrating that beauty can indeed rise from the ashes. Join us as we explore Keri's incredible story of survival and preparedness in motherhood on LifeJack, the Resilience Podcast, and learn how she has built resilience in the face of life's most daunting challenges.
Sometimes life gives us lemons. Sometimes it gives us lemonade. Other times, it gives us something entirely out of left field that makes us say, WTF. But no matter what obstacles come, there is most often a way out on the other side, and we are once again victorious. My name is Dr. Rowe, and you are listening to my podcast about resilience. Every guest shares a tragedy to triumph story to give listeners like you the inspiration to push through every single day. Listen now as my next guest shares how they were life-jacked.
Hi, Keri. Welcome. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. How are you?
I am doing so good, and thank you so much for hosting me and hosting this incredible podcast.
Yes, no. Thank you so much for being a guest. And, I'm always excited to talk about resilience with each and every guest because although the theme is the same, but everybody's experience is different. And it just gives people hope and it allows a space for people to be vulnerable. And that is kind of what I love. So thank you for coming on here and being vulnerable today.
Of course.
Now, Keri, your journey as a mother has been filled with significant challenges. As those of us who are parents, we know, there's no manual, right?
Right.
I mean, of course, books, right, that you read, but just like any job, you can read everything that you can, and it still doesn't prepare you for the things that come along. So can you share what it was like to receive your son's cancer diagnosis? Because poor thing, he had just arrived in the world. He hadn't even made it his first year yet. So, what was that like as a parent, and then how did it impact your family?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the parenting books because there are no parenting books out there that say what to do when your child is diagnosed with cancer. And trust me, I looked and I scoured the internet, and, podcasts were pretty new at that time when he was diagnosed. So there really wasn't even podcasts out there that talked about childhood cancer. And it was a total atomic bomb that just landed in the middle of my motherhood. It landed in the middle of life. And we were already a big family. I was expecting child number 5 when child number 4 was diagnosed with cancer. He was diagnosed with neuroblastoma. And I had 3 older children, and we were, in school and extracurriculars and church activities and PTO, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and my husband was climbing the corporate ladder and doing very well in his career, and everything just blew up. It just blew up, and it stopped, and it had to stop because we had to focus on this 9-month-old little cherub baby boy with a full head of dark hair. And I always say that because hair is kind of a big deal in the cancer world. And that was one of the first thoughts I had as a mom. And it's so silly to think about it, but it was so significant and so important. But when the doctor came in and said, your son has cancer, I just thought, all of his hair, all of his beautiful hair because he wasn't a bald baby when he was born. He was just had so much thick hair, and it was just tough. I mean, it was a ripple effect that really still continues today. And any cancer mom will tell you that being a cancer mom is never stops. Like, the cancer is going to end. That's what I tell newly diagnosed parents. You're going to get through it. But what none of us know is what the end is going to look like. Is it going to look like our child's crossing over into heaven, or is it going to look like our child surviving and living a full life? Or is it going to look like our child surviving and having such serious side effects from the treatments that you have to argue what kind of quality of life is that? It is truly an ongoing process. My son is 9 years cancer-free. He's doing amazing. He's just we call him, he really is a superhero. He's got super strength and super healing powers, I swear. He's just an incredible kid. But, he has scars, like visible scars, that at first he was embarrassed of, but we've talked him up so much through the years, like, be proud of these scars. And he has some hearing loss from the chemotherapy. So there's just always this thought in the back of your head too, like, what if it comes back? What if my other kids get it? Like, it truly is an atomic bomb. It is a doomsday event that lands in your life. Can't predict it. You can't prepare for it. It just hits you like a bucket of ice water, like the ice water challenges they used to do. So it was definitely jarring. And I thought once we got through it, I thought, oh, good. The worst has passed.
Right. Oh, my goodness. Well, I can say, just
which was
talk about. Well, it's one of those things when we talk about being life jacked, right? And so sometimes we ourselves, as the individual, we are life jacked, right? You're going along, everything is great, you get a promotion, you're killing it, just in life, and then all of a sudden this thing, whatever it may be, whether big or small, comes along and knocks you off your path or course, right? But
yes,
we don't think about sometimes that life being like our children also get life jacked. and not only does it affect them, it also affects us. It affects the family. And so whenever one person in our family goes through something, it's not just that person. We're all going through it because we have to adjust our schedules. We have to change, how we go about doing things. And that's just an extra added amount of stress that gets placed on us. And so, again, like you said, you could try and read a book up on cancer if you ever receive that information for your kids, but you really don't know what to do. So, but it seems like y'all band together as a family and got through it. And I think that's really what it's all about. It's just, going through it. Like you said, you tell other families that you will get through it. It is going to end. Of course, you can't predict what the ending is going to be, but I guess that's it. Is it really about just keeping your eye on, I don't want to call it a prize, right, at the end, but I guess keeping your eye maybe on a positive result? Is that really more so what it is?
Yeah, but I think it really is that. I think it is keeping your eye on the prize. So the first weekend we had to do chemotherapy. We were very nervous. We didn't want to do it. We had all of 7 days to prepare. Once we were diagnosed, they made the appointment, said you have to come back. We got all our ducks in a row, and we're in the room. We've gotten into our room, and this doctor comes in, and I'll never forget her. We never saw her again. And she was just this beautiful, extremely tall woman, and she was just full of life and full of light. And she's a pediatric oncologist, and she comes in, and she's like, okay, guys, are we ready for this? Ready to get this started? And it was our first chemo. We didn't know what we were getting into. We were scared to death. We were told our son would not see his first birthday. We were just terrified. And we went, really? Like, we're going to get excited about this? And she pointed her finger at us, and I'll never forget this. She said, don't do it. Don't do it. That chemotherapy is the light at the end of the tunnel, and you will get through this. It's going to be dark. It's going to be hard, but you got to keep your eye on the light. And that chemotherapy is your light. And it has stuck with me that through all the Mom's Day moments that we're going to talk about today, that one conversation that one doctor had with us in the 15 minutes that she was in our room has sustained me over and over and over again, because we do get life jacked. And when your children, I think you hit the nail on the head, when our children's lives are life jacked, it affects you as a mother, because we are molecularly connected with our children. And we feel their pain, and we feel what they're going through, and our instincts are to protect them, but sometimes you can't. Like, you can't get in there and fix cancer as much as you want to. You can't do it. So you have to walk through it, and you have to get to the light. And sometimes the tunnel is very dark.
No, absolutely. Now, in addition to this cancer diagnosis that you received for one of your children, for those of us who live in Texas, because you live in Texas just like I do, and actually listeners don't know, but you actually lived in the Houston area just like I do.
I did.
Yes. And we went through this storm, this Hurricane Harvey in 2017. Devastating, right? Many parts of Houston were just devastated. I mean, homes ended up being gutted. Of course, I was fortunate to not lose my home, but the water got pretty close. We did evacuate to Texarkana, Arkansas, but we were watching the cameras as long as we could until they just went out. But in that devastating loss, how did you some kind of way you found this strength to rebuild and move forward? But I can understand, just like the people in LA with the fires, you lose your home. That's your home, right? You have memories there. So when you are faced with that kind of life jacked moment, where do you find the strength to rebuild and move forward after such a devastating loss? Because it seems like from the outside, because it looks like, oh, well, you can just buy another house and just move on. But it's not that way, right? That's not what it feels like.
It's not, because you can't buy another first baby's blanket for your child that's 10 years old.
Yes.
You can't buy your parents' wedding album that gets destroyed. There are things you can't buy. But I'll tell you, it was Hurricane Harvey, any kind of hurricane, if anyone's in Midwest or up north and you don't experience these hurricanes, it is like a war zone. I mean, when the hurricane is over and everyone's mucking out their houses and you see mattresses and toilets and personal belongings just piled up in people's front yards, it is a war zone, and it's really traumatizing and shocking just to see that, but to have it be your own things and your own items, it was difficult. It was more difficult for my children, my older children, and my husband, I think, than it was for me. I was 37 weeks pregnant when Hurricane Harvey came into town with my sixth child, and everything was destroyed that we needed for the baby. We had no crib, no blankets, no diapers, nothing. We didn't even have a home to have her in. And that was that was the most jarring thing for me. Oh my gosh, where am I going to have this baby? What am I going to do with this baby? Because when you have a baby, you need time to heal. You need time to recover. You need time to establish a bond with the baby. And so that was a little upsetting. But where I found my strength through all that, honestly, is through my faith and my community. So I had seen these incredible miracles on the oncology floor with my own son that God provided. And I wasn't very faithful at that time either. I was still kind of I don't know, questioning, I guess, or on a journey maybe, just kind of trying to figure things out. But he was showing me miracles left and right. And by the time Hurricane Harvey came around, I was like, you know what? We're going to be fine. God's going to provide. And he did. We were able to get into a rent house almost immediately.
Love it.
Our church paid for the rent for the entire time we were there from an anonymous donor. We were able to rebuild our house. Within 6 months, we were back in our own home. But it's the things, it's the things that were hard to let go of, because you can't replace the memories that are attached to the items. And it was just really hard for me to watch my kids go through it, because they were so young, and they're like, but we want our favorite stuffy. We want our favorite shoes, and everything was just gone.
Man. So I have to now talk about your son being hit by the truck. And, so you've gone through the cancer diagnosis. You've gone through Hurricane Harvey, losing your home.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Keri, you dealt with your son, your child, that, like you said earlier, we're supposed to protect them and keep them from harm. And, so talk through, that moment and that trauma of your son being struck by a truck.
Well, here's my take on all of this. There is always a purpose in the pain that we go through. And that's a hard thing to tell a cancer mom, because I'm almost 10 years removed from childhood cancer. So a lot of new cancer moms will come to me and they'll talk to me, or a lot of wives whose husbands have addictions. Like my husband was diagnosed with anorexia, and that was very difficult to go through. You don't want to go through the pain. You don't want to feel the trauma. I did not want to see my son laying in a ditch, completely broken and bloodied. I didn't want to have to go through watching another son fight for his life. It was so traumatic and it was so hard. And in that moment, it broke me. I had just gone through so much, what I call Mom's Day moments, these big events like Hurricane Harvey, childhood cancer, anorexia. But there were a lot of mini Mom's Day moments in there as well. And it brought me to this moment where my son we were on vacation, we were in Alabama, and they got up super early to go hunt for crabs, and they were coming back, and it was just unfortunate timing, really. I mean, it wasn't some crazy, he was texting and driving, or, it was just an unfortunate timed event, and the guy just kind of veered into the bike lane and clipped my son. And I was not with them. I was in the home, and my other son, my cancer survivor, came running in, told me what happened. I ran out. All of a sudden, there's police officers everywhere and ambulances everywhere. And the most terrifying thing was that my son never lost consciousness. Oh. He was conscious the entire time. And it was so terrifying to me because he was in so much pain. His femur was shattered. He had over 12 broken bones. He had 4 lacerated organs, road rash, and it was all instantaneous. And I remember, looking back now, I can remember the most terrifying thing for me when Super G we call him Super G, when my son got cancer, was that he was a baby. It's like, oh my God, he's just a baby. He's so little. He's so young, The doctors kept saying, no, you don't understand. That is the biggest blessing we have, because the younger they are, the higher chance they have to survive. Uh-huh. And when my son was hit by the car, I was so upset. I kept saying, just pass out, so he wouldn't feel the pain. And the doctors came in later and they said, no, you don't understand. The fact that he didn't lose consciousness is how he's alive right now. Mm-hmm. So when he was hit, he landed right on his face. The pictures are just, and the neurosurgeons came in, and neurologists came in, their whole team, and they said, listen, had he landed on his head 1 centimeter in any direction, your child would be dead. He landed right in the exact spot he needed to survive, and he kept his consciousness. Wow. Even in the most people, like, we're looking at our children and they're in so much pain and we want to protect them. Sometimes that pain has it. And we have to just walk through it. And we don't want to walk through it. I have a good friend right now who's going through a Mom's Day moment, and she's been calling me, and she's like, this sucks. How did you do this so many times? I said, honey, I don't know. I don't know how I'm saying right now. You just got to stay in it.
I mean, Keri, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking the same thing as I'm, going through these different events as you're retelling them, and I'm playing them through my mind, and I'm like, my goodness. But all I can say, Keri, is just God is good. That's just all I can say, right? And I mean, just I can't see how you cannot rejoice and call out His name, because I mean, I'm with luck or anything, but I mean, it's just God is good. And, as we are going through life and when we are believers, I mean, I know that sometimes people say, well, I'm a believer and this happened to me. But when we truly are believers, I just know that he does put an armor of protection around us and around our families. I really do believe that.
Absolutely. He protected Hank that day. Yeah. 100%. He protected him. He protected my son. He has protected our family over and over. He's protected me more times than I can even, imagine, and that's the thing. Like, he is working in our lives on such a minute level and a molecular level that we don't even know, can't see it. But that's where faith comes in, right? And when he was hit by that car and I was in the ditch and, all this chaos was happening, I was pissed. I'm not going to lie. I was cursing his name. I was doing it publicly. I was putting it out on social media. Like, I can't believe God did this again. Like, you are more likely to be struck by lightning than have something like this happen. And I was looking up stats. I was pulling the numbers. I was like, I'm going to prove it. This God sucks. Like, what the heck is happening? And all these kids and all these babies. And why does this keep happening to our family? And when the anger subsided, when the anger kind of went away and I knew my son was going to be okay and we were back in Texas and things were kind of calming down, which took about 6 weeks, to be honest with you. I was just livid for 6 weeks. I was able to hear him. I was able to hear his voice. And he said, Keri, stop messing around. You are not living your purpose for me. And that's when Mom Say Prepper was really born. And that's when the podcast was born. And I thought, okay, if this is happening to me, this is happening to a lot of other moms. And we need to voice it. We need to put a voice to it. We need to call it something. We need to be able to go to the store, to the stupid bookstore or Amazon, and order a book that says, hey, Mom Say moments really suck. And it's going to be really hard. But if you hold on to your faith and you hold on to your community and you have your finances set and you have your memories set and you have your, you're aware. Awareness is a huge piece of this because there are so many, like the medical community had no idea. Childhood cancer, I couldn't even pronounce neuroblastoma, let alone spell it when we were diagnosed. Like, just be aware of the world that we're raising our kids in, and it was so powerful.
I really just wanted to say, you know what, Keri, when God speaks to you, right, you don't have a choice but to sit down and go, okay, God. Like, you could fight him if you want to, right?
Yeah.
You could try it. But when he speaks and he's final, like, he's like, listen.
I know.
You don't have a choice but to go, oh, okay, God. Okay. Yes, sir. I'm like, I got it. I love that. Now, earlier you mentioned the power of community support. You talked about how your church, banded together. You had an anonymous donor help you all out after Hurricane Harvey in 2017. And I do truly believe that it is definitely essential during those tough times. So, overall, what advice would you give to other mothers who are seeking similar support? Like, how do you go about it? Because sometimes you do have to seek it out, right? Sometimes it doesn't just happen that somebody sees you and then comes and supports you. But it is hard for people to ask for help. So what advice could you give to moms?
Humble yourself.
Whoa, yeah.
It's funny you said, how do you ask for help? Well, you got to humble yourself. You got to put pride back on the shelf. Community is one of those tricky things, and I sometimes get a little like chuckle or even an eye roll when I do Mom Say Prepper workshops. I'll say, this is an unpopular thing, but Facebook is not your community. Instagram is not your community. It is a tool to reach your community. Of course, it is a tool to communicate with your community. But if you don't have in-person interactions with people on a regular basis, you don't have a community. So, and this is it's not hard for me because I'm an extrovert. I love people. I love putting myself in uncomfortable situations where I have to go, just meet new people all the time, whether it's a wine tasting event or a book club or, whatever, some kind of sporting thing. But you have to put your face in front of their face. You have to handshake, give them a hug, see how they're doing. that is your community. And those are the people that are going to step up in your time of need. Now, how do you do that? You know, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. It's really hard to make friends when you're an adult.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that. And that's because we're all in different places in our life. You know, some people are getting married, other people are having babies, some people are starting new careers. And when you're not on the same playing ground, like when you were at 4th grade or 6th grade or whatever, you know, it's just difficult. So you really have to push that. You got to get community now before one of these events happen.
Now, you've mentioned the best way to build resilience is through pain. Now, Keri, you're going to have to elaborate on that one. So what does that mean? How have you applied that through your life? Because I don't think anybody wants to go through pain. I know we have to. I know it happens. But how are you building resilience out of the pain?
Because I think with pain comes wisdom. With pain comes a knowledge that you are so strong. Look at the pain you've endured. You are so strong. And you can get through it, even when you just think you're going to break, and even when you are broken. You know, my oldest daughter was 16 years old when my son was hit by that truck, and she did not witness it. She was in the house with me, but we came out. We were restraining him in the ditch. She was calling 911. There were lots of 911 calls, but that event sent her into a spiral with complex PTSD. It was almost immediate. She was very suicidal. It was very difficult to watch her go through that and have my son be broken in a million places, it felt like, you know, and like I'm basically keeping 2 children alive. And I called her. She was going to go work at this camp, and I called the camp director. We know the family, beautiful family, wonderful family. I said, hey, this is what's happened. This is what's going on. She's not going to come work for you this summer. I can't let her out of my sight. And she said something to me that was very profound. And she said, no, we are only as resilient as a rubber band. You can pull that rubber band far, 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 and it'll come back, and you pull it again far, 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 far. But eventually that rubber will start to get a little looser and a little worn down. And one day you're going to pull that rubber band so far it breaks. And all you can do is tie it back together and hope it holds. And she said her rubber band just broke, but she's going to get tied back together. And so I thought that was so profound when it comes to resiliency, because we are all resilient, but sometimes our rubber bands are a little smaller than others, or sometimes we need to tie our bands back together.
I love that. I love that. Now, with all you've endured, how do you maintain a sense of normalcy and joy in your daily life with your children and your family? Because you've gone through a lot, you know.
Yeah, we have gone through a lot.
You know, but, you know, and even like you just mentioned about your daughter. And so how do you keep it all together?
How do I keep it all together? Usually I like to throw in a joke like lots of wine or something like that, which is not true. Actually, I'm not much of a drinker, but you know what I do love to do is to get into nature. I do a lot of grounding. I've done a lot of healing. Like healing is so essential to motherhood. And I do a lot of hiking where we live. We have elevations. So I do a lot of hiking and a lot of therapy. I mean, when you go through events like this, you cannot have this attitude of, oh, I don't need therapy, I'm fine. No, you need therapy. Like, you got to get it out of you. Yeah. And then when you go through a trauma, you really need a counselor who is trauma informed and does trauma processing. So I use a technique called EMDR, and it's like voodoo magic, girl. I mean, it's like it rewires your brain, and you can just handle things better. And I found that, like, way back, you know, years back, with the first couple of Mom's Day moments that we went through, I wasn't taking care of my mental health. I wasn't taking care of that part of it, and I was just muscling through, you know, because that's what we do here in America. We muscle through things, right? If you've ever played a sport, you ever had a coach, you know, like, you broke your leg, get out there, Henson, do it again, you know. You don't care, right? We're trained to do that. But as I was muscling through it, my temper was short. I wasn't sleeping well. I was short with the kids. Like, I wasn't being the best mom I could be. And I learned very quickly, and that's where this pain and wisdom and knowledge all come to play. Like, you're going to go through pain. Have the wisdom to heal the pain.
Yeah.
Because more pain is going to come, hopefully not on the astronomical levels that it has in my life, but we all go through situations that are painful.
Right. So I have to ask you, because, this conversation has really been about motherhood and resilience, and I love it. I love this conversation so much. And, before we all became mothers, we had an idea, right, of the type of mother that we thought we were going to be and how it was going to be with that first baby coming, and we were just going to tackle it all, or maybe we were scared. Who knows? But we all had an idea of what we thought that motherhood would be, and it was different for different people.
Yeah.
For you, Keri, what does motherhood mean for you?
Oh, man. You're so intuitive with these questions, because I would say 100% of the guests on my podcast, Mom's Day Bunker, where I bring moms in to talk about their own Mom's Day moments, every single one of them brings this up, where they had this fairy tale motherhood of what motherhood was going to be, and then an event like childhood cancer, or a fentanyl, and one of the moms lost her child to fentanyl, and another mom lost her child to actually a car accident. And it's just, you can't prepare for that. The fairy tale's gone. You're never going to get it. And so what motherhood means to me now, as opposed to what I thought it was going to be, is more of a mission. I think motherhood is a mission. And it's my mission to take motherhood back. And I want to take it back not just for me, but for all the moms, because this world is going to come after our children. It's coming after them every day. It's coming after them through social media, human trafficking, fentanyl. It's coming after our kids. So we need to fight back. We need to take our motherhood back. And that's through, I believe, these preps that I talk about, that I workshop, which is community. Find moms who will help you stay strong in your motherhood, even through the hard times, because there will be hard times. Find that community. Find your faith. Like, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but I'm going to love you wherever you are. Please, please have a faith. Please. You're not going to get through it without a foundation of faith. You make sure your money's in order. That's one of my preps. It's a big prep, because, hey, there's not a penny you will not spend to save your child.
That's right. Amen to that.
But you also got to put gas in your car to take your child to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to get your finances in order, and you got to start making memories. I talk about memories a lot, because memories go far beyond Disney World. Okay, you don't need to go to Disney World to make a memory. Go make a mud pile in your backyard and play in the mud with your kids. Get all muddy, take pictures of it, and put it on your wall. That's your memory. That's what your kids will remember.
Right. No, that's true. I found that to be true with my kids. The things that they remember the most, although we've taken our trips and we've had a great time, and we do have those memories, and they talk about those too, but it's those moments, those off-the-cuff, random moments that we did not plan for are the ones that we laugh at and remember the most and the longest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Now, looking back on your experiences, what lessons have you learned about resilience that you would like to share with our listeners who may be facing their own struggle?
I think one of the ways to keep that rubber band from snapping is to just be present in the pain. And it's hard. I think it's a discipline. I think you have to practice at it, but you have to practice being sad, scared, anxious, breathe through it, talk to a friend, call a friend, but don't try to busy yourself out of feeling present in the pain. I think we do that as women in general, but we do that as moms too. Like, oh, I need to do the laundry right now. I need to busy myself. I need to go to the grocery store. I need to email this teacher. I need to clean my kid's room. I need to clean out the closet. You need to sit and you just need to feel the pain. And that's going to help prevent that rubber band from snapping on you. And it's going to make that rubber band thicker and longer so that you can carry more and you can have those calluses on you when the painful moments come in life.
Wow. Thank you, Keri, for sharing your incredible story with the listeners and with me today as a guest on LifeJack, the Resilience Podcast. Your journey is a powerful reminder of the strength we can find within ourselves and the importance of community in overcoming life's challenges. And also remembering that social media is not your community. I loved it when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool to get to your community, right? But I love that.
Yes.
As a mother, teacher, and survivor, you exemplify, and I mean that when I say that, the spirit of resilience, showing us that even in the darkest moments, there is hope and beauty to be found. So how can listeners find and connect with you?
Well, thank you for saying that. I truly appreciate that. And they can find me. I have a website. It's called momsdayprepper.com. They can find me on Facebook, Keri Mom's Day Prepper, Instagram, I think is Keri Mom's Day Prepper. And if they have their own story and they want to be a guest on the Mom's Day Bunker, which is my podcast, you can find that on all podcast platforms. They just need to reach out to me either on social media or on the website, and we'll get them set up.
Any last words of encouragement for the listeners?
Oh, my gosh. Fight like hell. Take your motherhood back. Stand your ground. Know that you are a daughter of God, and there's a powerful army out there fighting for you.
Wonderful. Keri, I appreciate the insights you've shared, and I hope the listeners take away some key principles that can help them take their leap of faith or take their motherhood back. I wish you and your family nothing but blessings and abundance in this year. Please take care.
Thank you. You too.
Keri Henson, everyone. Be sure to join me next time for more uplifting stories and insights on resilience. Until then, keep pushing forward, embrace the journey, and remember that every setback can lead to a greater comeback. Dr. Rowe signing off.